whiteboard is back. Hello class, welcome to MACROS 101. I am your teacher, Alexis Clairefit, and today we'll be learning all about macros and how to figure out what your macros should be. You may be thinking, Alexis, Miss Alexis, Professor Alexis, you are not dressed appropriately to be leading a class. And to that I would say, my classroom, my rules. You might also say, Alexis, you put a lot of work into your makeup and seemingly no work into your hair. And to that I would say, if you're washing your hair in quarantine, you're a little bit of a nerd. It's okay though. I still love you a lot. But I can't. Okay? My name is Alexis. My credentials include an ACE personal trainer certification, 3 years of experience, and constantly researching this shit because I'm a nerd about it. See, we're all nerds here, so it's fine. Let's get started. First, let's talk about what macros are. Macros is short for macronutrients. What macronutrients are these three things: your carbohydrates, your protein, and your fats. Micronutrients are things found in like vitamins if you don't eat enough micronutrient dense foods. So like vitamin A, vitamin B12, all that kind of stuff, that's micronutrients. These three things are macronutrients. And these three things make up your calories. So every single thing you eat has a macronutrient breakdown, unless it's like a 0 calorie thing. Everything with calories has either carbs, protein, or fat in it, or a mixture of all. All three of these serve you in some way. Protein helps the most with muscle building and muscle retention. Carbs are the most fast digesting of the three, and they provide you energy both in your body and in your brain. That's why when people go keto, they report that they have fuzzy brain, like they can't really think straight. That's because you don't have carbs, which energizes your brain, which is important. Fat is the slowest digesting one and is the most obviously calorically dense. So that's kind of the breakdown of like what each is. Next, what you'll need to know is when figuring out what your macros should be, if you want to start tracking macros, is you need to know that 1 gram of carbs is 4 calories, 1 gram of protein is 4 calories, and 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. This is why peanut butter is so high calorie. You ever take a bite of peanut butter and then just check out the nutrition label and find out you ate like 200 calories in 1 spoonful? That's why, it's because it's high in fat, so it has more calories per gram. Are you with me so far? So in finding out what your macros should be, you first need to find out what your calories should be. In order to do that, I recommend watching my How to Boost Your Metabolism video. I talk about how to know if you're under eating and need to slowly increase your intake, or if you're good where you are, whatever. I would say that's required reading. That's your homework. Please go watch that video, which will be linked below. But once you find out what your calories should be, this is also based on your goals, right? If you want to work on building your metabolism, building some muscle, you might want to do a reverse diet or just put your calories higher. So you'll figure out what those calories should be. Or if you're eating in a caloric surplus, eating a lot every day, and you want to cut down on how much you're eating, which you should only do if you're eating a certain amount of calories, check out the video. That might be your goal. Or if you just want to chill where you're at, you would figure out what your maintenance calories are. You can do that by track how you're eating, first of all. Eat how you normally eat and track how you're eating. And if your body doesn't really change much over the 2 weeks, that's your maintenance. If you gain weight over the 2 or 3 weeks, then you may have found your surplus. And if you lost weight, you may have found your deficit. This is explained more deeply in that video. But let's start with a basic number. So let's say you figure out, for whatever reason, you should be at 200 calories, okay? So that's what we're shooting for. You're gonna need to do a little bit of math but all of our phones come with calculators. You should be able to do it. It's very easy math. What I recommend is first finding out what your protein should be. That's what I do for my clients. The typical rule for protein is 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body weight. So a brief explanation of that is if you are pretty lean right now, let's say you weigh 125 and you're pretty lean, you should be good eating around 110 to 120 grams of protein. So put your number somewhere in there. And if you're not super lean right now, your lean body weight can be kind of difficult to figure out unless you have like a smart scale that will tell you. So what I typically do for clients is I go by their height. I go by their height and their weightlifting experience. So if they haven't been lifting weights very long, they probably don't have a lot of muscle on their body. If they're 5'2", and haven't been lifting very long, they probably don't have a lot of muscle on their body, and they're 5'2", so their lean body weight puts them probably below 120 pounds, I would guess. So I usually put someone in that category between 100 to 110 grams of protein, usually more towards the 100 grams of protein. If you're like 5 feet tall, you don't need to be eating more than 100 grams of protein probably, unless you have like a good amount of muscle on your body. So that's kind of how I find out what the lean body weight thing is, because you have to go by lean body weight, because let's say you are 250 pounds starting your fitness journey, eating 250 grams of protein would be impossible and sickening if you're able to do it. You don't need to be overeating protein, basically. 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pounds of lean body weight. Okay? Comment below if that explanation was not to your liking. I can explain it more. So let's say this person figures out, using that formula, that they need to be eating 120 grams of protein. You have your first number. So if you multiply 120 by 4, because 1 gram of protein is what, class? 4 calories, correct, good job. So you do 120 times 4 equals 480 calories. So 480 calories of this 2,000 calories is going to be your protein. So then you subtract 480 from 2,000. So 2,000 calories minus the 480 calories we already have from protein. So you have 1,520 calories to play with your carbs and your fat. And people take different approaches to this. What I do for my clients is just do a pretty moderate amount of both. I don't do like lower fat, higher carb, or higher fat, lower carb. I do a pretty similar amount of both. And then if they report to me that they keep going over on fat, no matter like how much they're trying to watch their intake, if they keep going over on fat because of their diet or the foods that they enjoy, stuff like that, I'll take some away from the carbs and add it to the fat, because it's the same amount of calories. So I usually let them self-report how the carbs and fat breakdown is, and I will adjust accordingly. But I never make one of them too low. Making carbs too low, I mentioned earlier, will make your brain all fuzzy, you won't have energy, you'll feel like shit. Making fat too low can be extremely dangerous, especially for women. Fat is a vital nutrient that we need. I never go below 50 grams of fat for my clients. I never go too low on either one. So I've put my clients on 2,000 calories before, so I have a pretty good understanding of what the carbs and fat should be at. So let's say we did 220 grams of carbs. That times 4 is 880. 880 calories from carbs, 480 calories from protein. So I'm gonna add those two numbers, and we're at 1360. Let's do 2,000 calories minus 1360 equals 640. So we have 640 calories left for fat. So what you'll do now, divide that by 9, because 1 gram of fat is, class, 9 calories, correct. If you look, you divided it by 9 and it gives you 71. So at that point, I would just say 70 grams of fat. Okay, let's add it all up. So 70 times 9 is 630. So you have 630 calories from fat, right? And then we're gonna add that to the 880 calories from carbs. And then we're gonna add that to the 480 calories from protein. And what we're at is at 1990, which is right on the cusp of 2,000 calories. These are the macros I have to eat now. Sounds good. Let's do it. And you start eating and you realize a few days in, it's really hard for you to stay under 220 grams of carbs, but it's really hard for you to get to the 70 grams of fat. Okay, so you're like, okay, so how about I just move some of my calories from fat to carbs to make it easier on myself? Let's say you want to do that. I'll show you how. So let's subtract 5 grams of fat from this, so you'll be at 65 grams of fat now. 5 times 9 equals 45, so that's 45 calories going to carbs. So you would do 45 divided by 4. Which is 11. So you would add 11 grams of carbs. So now you would be at 231 grams of carbs. And you can keep doing that. Like you could go down to 60 grams of fat and put it to carbs or whatever you need to do. So basically, that's how you can kind of move things around. Let's say you're reverse dieting. Protein is always gonna stay the same. So when reverse dieting, when you're slowly increasing your calories, what I do for my clients is I add 10 grams of carbs and 5 grams of fat with every 2 to 3 weeks, depending upon how the body is responding. Protein will always stay the same because protein is a set number based on the rule I told you earlier. So protein will stay the same, and then I'll slowly increase the carbs and fat. Same thing with cutting down. Protein stays the same. You want to retain that muscle that you've built. So protein stays the same and you slowly lower carbs and fat. I use the same rule this way too, where I lower by 10 grams of carbs, 5 grams of fat. Depending on the client, some people like to eat higher carb, slightly lower fat, and vice versa. Basically, that's how you would adjust as well. So I hope this helps. Just comment below any questions that you have. I hope I explained it well. I feel like I did, but if you have any questions at all, please comment. Thank you so much for watching. I get this question a lot, so I really, really hope it helps some people. Follow me on Instagram at AlexisClaireFit. Like this video if it helped you. It helps me a lot, and I'm on a true YouTube journey right now, if you can't tell by my freaking constant uploads. So if you don't mind, I'd appreciate it. Subscribe if you want to stick around. That's it. I love you so much. I hope you have a good day. We'll talk soon. Stay safe. Okay, bye.